It's crazy how Oda still thinks Akainu is the strongest, especially us fans seeing the monsters Big Mom and Kaido show out as Yonko level characters during the Versus Emperor saga, and Kaido ushering Luffy as an official Yonko that even Akainu respects, telling Lucci not to engage with him during Egghead Island until Kizaru shows up in Admiral. We also have during the Egghead Island arc a showcasing of Shank's incredible haki from Future Sight for 10 seconds, the Conqueror's haki coded, able to destroy Eustace Kid and his vice captain Killer, who had pretty impressive showings during the Onigashima raid. And if Killer didn't interrupt, yes, Eustace Kid would be dead. He would be killed, no pun intended. I believe Elbaf continued this trend of not only highlighting Imu's insane haki in the current timeline, but also showing God Valley flashback, the era that belonged to Rocks, Roger, and Garp, with Imu Dami reversing Rocks, the strongest of that era, and having him fight monsters like Kaido, Big Mom, and even Whitebeard, who were a part of his crew, while taking on Roger and Garp, putting all their haki into one attack just to defeat him. And when I say defeat, it is an asterisk, it's pretty much a stalemate. All I can say is, even after seeing all this, don't forget, Akainu was the guy pre-timeskip and hasn't done shit after the timeskip, as power scaling has shifted so much from Katakuri in the Haki blooming fight to the worst generation awakening their power against the Yonko, and now we're reaching Pirate King level as the limit. As we reach the climax, and with guys like Monkey D, Dragon, and Blackbeard still yet to show their full capabilities, I believe Akainu's power, in my opinion, is not fully appreciated because we still haven't even seen his full capabilities, but what he's shown so far is pretty impressive. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to an Akainu upscale in the series, giving him the status of strongest, is Kaido versus Luffy. And I know what you guys are thinking, Kaido versus Luffy on Wano. Akainu wasn't there. If anything, the only admiral that ever pulled up was after their fight, and that was Greenbow, and he definitely did not make an Akainu upscale with the admiral's title status. Hold on, guys. When I see a Kaido versus Luffy, I'm talking about that last bit of the fight. Yes, when Luffy went Gear 5 and was in his strongest form, Kaido was in awe about Luffy using Conqueror's haki to code his attacks, while of course coding it with armor haki as well. Pretty much Luffy was doing the same thing that Roger was doing on God Valley, plus he had the Nika Delfru, that like this awakening, this white form that just had Kaido in awe, the strongest creature alive, who's seen the monsters fight on God Valley. The reason why I want to talk about this is because Kaido does Blazing Bagua. He turns into this magma dragon that is vicious, and when I say vicious, I am not glazing Kaido. Yo, this is one of the strongest moves I've seen in the series. This move is so strong that Luffy has to put advanced armor haki just so he doesn't touch Kaido, because the magma will definitely have Luffy incinerated. Yes, that's how powerful Kaido's attack is. But don't forget who the Magma Man is. It's not Kaido. Yes, Kaido used their strongest attack with Magma, but the true Magma Man is Akainu. So all this is to me is an Akainu upscale and how strong his Delfru truly is. But we already knew this, guys. Ichiro Oda, the man who makes this series, the man who makes One Piece, the man who doesn't care about power scaling, did say that Akainu had the strongest offensive Delfru power in the series. That is a big deal because it's not some random person on YouTube saying it, like maybe LegendMac. No, it's the Ichiro Oda, the man who made One Piece, saying that. Put some respect on his name. So, and I believe in what we've seen from Akainu, he has shown the strongest offensive output of a Delfru, where haki reigns supreme, haki transcends all. Akainu kind of is the outlier when it comes to techniques. Like, I know what you guys are thinking, is this going to be LegendMac glazing Akainu for like the 100th time? No, this is not me glazing Akainu. This is Ichiro Oda glazing Akainu. Yes, Ichiro Oda said Sakazuki, the red dog, if he was the main character, if he was Monkey D. Luffy, he would be able to find the One Piece in 1 year. And to me, this was always interesting because I looked at it kind of like Akainu is confirmed to be Gear 5 Luffy level. The reason why I say this is because Luffy is right now just entered the final saga after he reached Gear 5 level with Conqueror's haki coding and Advanced Armor haki and Future Sight. That's when he reached the final saga. And I truly believe Akainu, if he was the main character, Oda's saying that he would have already been in the final saga. That's how strong he is. And in 1 year's time, he would go from the beginning of the Grand Line to the end and get to Laughdale and of course get the One Piece treasure and start the greatest war the world's ever seen. The thing is, Akainu is not a Willie D member. He's a Fleet Admiral Marine that works for Imu. So yeah, obviously Oda's being facetious and is a hypothetical that's never gonna happen. Now rewind a bit. If you guys want to talk about Akainu, you gotta look at pre-timeskip because there's so many gems in pre-timeskip when it comes to power scaling and narrative and how characters are viewed. that no one wants to talk about. And I think the biggest look on Akainu is his introduction. We have Aokiji's introduction during the Davy Bag situation, where at the end of the arc, we see Long Ring, Long Island. Aokiji's there riding on a bicycle, and he's devastating with his ice powers and destroys Luffy. That's an introduction. Then we have Kizaru and Sabaody. The way he's introduced is destroying all the supernovas and pretty much having Rayleigh have to stop him because that's how unstoppable he was. 100 times stronger than Luffy pre-time skip. That's pretty impressive introductions. But Oda purposely made Akainu the last introduction and even teased him during the Ohara flashback, having him destroy the innocent civilians there. I truly believe Oda is doing a narrative hint that Akainu is the strongest admiral. And if you didn't believe it, of course Akainu would actually fight the next strongest admiral in Aokiji, who Sengoku actually nominated for Fleet Admiral. When Sengoku nominated Aokiji for Fleet Admiral, this confirmed that Aokiji was stronger than Kizaru. And people were like, oh, Kizaru never got touched in Marineford. He's super fast. Speed is weight. Aokiji, yes, he got touched by Jozu with the diamond fruit, but Diamond Jozu took a slash from Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman, and Aokiji wasn't even paying attention, and Aokiji's the only one to actually defeat his opponent. Yo, Marco wasn't defeated by Kizaru, and Whitebeard was not defeated by Akainu. Yes, Akainu did a lot of damage. Aokiji's the only one to actually defeat Jozu. Of course, people say sneak attack because he was off guard. I don't care. He took off Jozu's arm and defeated him and froze him, and that is a devastating feat from Aokiji, and that is who Sengoku nominated for Fleet Admiral. So I just want to talk about a lot of these power scaling that people talk about: Yonko level, Admiral level, Power King level. Just power skill the Admirals itself. There's a hierarchy in the Admirals itself, and I believe that's Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru, and Aokiji and Akainu are the Fleet Admiral candidates for a reason. Speaking of Jozu, people like to underestimate Jozu's power because he does have some pretty shaky moments. I'm talking about when he was going at it with Crocodile and Doflamingo started to control him. That was a pretty shaky moment from Jozu. And obviously Aokiji taking off his arm. Two very shaky moments from a relatively strong character. And I truly believe his diamond fruit, what he did with Mihawk, and what he did with Aokiji, making him bleed, making an admiral bleed, was a pretty good feat. Those are some of the strongest characters to this day. Aokiji and Mihawk are some of the strongest characters to this day in the One Piece story. And not to sound like Deontay Wilder, but I want to say one thing, guys. I'm not even talking about his death with the diamond fruit, the Kira Kira no Mi. I'm talking about Jozu picking up that iceberg and throwing it. Do you know how strong Jozu is to do that? That is one of the greatest physical feats I've seen in the series. And guess what happens? Who incinerates the iceberg? It's Akainu, yo. His Delph fruit is that strong. Casually, he's destroying one of the strongest feats in the series by Jozu. And that would take a lot of lives if that iceberg landed. So I gotta say, kudos to Akainu. That is how you actually do your first attack in the series. And it's not just him destroying the iceberg. The after effects of it, this volcanic rock rocking the entire Whitebeard pirates, breaking ships, like, I gotta give respect to respect is due. And of course, Whitebeard is gonna be facetious and saying, oh, a birthday cake and all that stuff. But still, Akainu was pretty impressive in that moment in Marineford. Now, of course, people love to ignore the fact that Akainu bodied Ace. People just look at the fact that Akainu killed Ace. Yes, I get it. Akainu killed Ace. It's a very sad moment. We hate Akainu. But don't forget, this was a straight up 1v1 fight. Ace did not like the way that Akainu was talking shit. Ace, like his father Roger, stood on business and said, yo, I want to fight you. They fought. Akainu destroyed him. Akainu bodied him. A top Yonko commander got bodied by an admiral. It really was an interesting moment because their Delph fruits was what really was talked about. Akainu's Delph fruit was just stronger than Ace's Delph fruit when it comes to matchups. And One Piece has a lot of matchups that people don't want to talk about, like Enel and Luffy pre-time skip. Matchups matter. It doesn't really power scale you if you have really bad matchup situations. And this was a bad matchup. We even seen this with Ace and Aokiji when they clashed. Aokiji had a bad matchup with Ace where Ace actually melted Aokiji's ice. So matchups matter. I do still think Aokiji would have bodied Ace too as well this time because his hockey, his physical strength was insane levels. I gotta admit, even Garp's fight, we saw that. But I want to say this, guys. Bodied by Akainu, and then Akainu killed them too. You gotta understand, yo. That is power. The fact that Akainu killed someone in the One Piece story, a story that rarely gets deaths in the actual main timeline. I ain't talking about no flashback. And then there's Whitebeard. I think Whitebeard versus Akainu is the most controversial topic in the One Piece series. The reason why it's so controversial is because how much we respect Whitebeard. Whitebeard was seen as the strongest Yonko. Like, I know sickness and old age makes him not the strongest Yonko, but he was seen as that. Yo, when Roger died, he sat in front of the throne. And you have to understand, he was Yonko level. I don't care if people say he was sick and old. No, he was still, that's how strong he was in his prime. He wasn't even his prime in God Valley, and he clashed with a amped up rocks with his Dole Fruit and broke a mountain. That's how powerful the clash was. That was insane. And even before that, he had a clash with Roger. And people are going to mention how he ran away from Garp with Big Mom and Kaido. He just didn't want to drag on that fight. But you have to understand, Whitebeard's power was showcased on God Valley. His power was showcased after God Valley, fighting Roger in his prime for 3 days. And with the Conqueror's Haki coding up the wazoo, Whitebeard is a legit monster in the series. And when he gets older and sick, that's when he goes from Pirate King level to Yonko level. And Akainu was going up against that monster. Some of the devastating experience, battle IQ experience that Whitebeard has is little to no one can actually go against Whitebeard's battle experience. And Akainu went up against that monster, took off half his face, put a magma fist in his gut, and if I'm being honest, took an onslaught from Whitebeard, a sneak attack as well, and was still fighting after that. To me, that made me look at Akainu better than Whitebeard, because I already looked at Whitebeard as a GOAT. Akainu at that point, I was a little shaky. I'm like, well, is this guy really legit? He was legit after this. I'm more impressed with Akainu did in Marineford than Kizaru not getting touched. Akainu was going up against everybody. It was free smoke. And then there's Shanks. People always like to glaze Shanks, including me. I'm a big Shanks guy. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Shanks over Mihawk. That's another video for another day. But Shanks stopped Akainu for a reason, yo. That was symbolic. The reason why it was symbolic because Akainu was the biggest threat on the Marine side. Yes, Garp was incredibly powerful. Yes, Sengoku was incredibly powerful. Yes, Aokiji and Kizaru were monsters. But when it comes to offensive threat, natural danger to the pirates, it's Akainu, yo. That's the monster he was. Even the way he tricked Squardo. So when Shanks stopped him, that was symbolic because you need the strongest Yonko to stop Akainu from killing Kobe. And I feel like Shanks with his strong Haki stopping Akainu with his strong Dole Fruit was also symbolic as well. And as fans, we would want to see that fight. I know Akainu was definitely weakened. He wasn't 100% because he just took a beating from Whitebeard. But he wasn't 50%, guys. Even though he wasn't 100%, he wasn't 50%. I'll give him a good 75%. He could have kept fighting, guys. That's how much willpower Akainu has. One of the strongest willpowers in the Marine Force. And I believe he definitely has Conqueror's Haki, just like his predecessors in Garp and Sengoku of Legends of the Marines. I think he has it. Now, I also want to talk about Garp. This is a conversation that gets talked about all the time. And I'm a Garp fan. Just like I'm a fan of Shanks, I'm a Garp fan. But let's be honest here. When Garp said he wanted to kill Akainu, a lot of people were like, could he actually kill Akainu? And now we've seen Garp actually fight in his old age. It's 2 years after the time skip, so we know Garp gets even more weaker than he was on Marineford. But we see Garp fight with the Galaxy Impact on Pirate Island and his clashes with, of course, Aokiji, tanking Shiryu the Rain's attack, destroying Shiryu the Rain with that punch. We saw Osamu on the Wolf, the biggest guy, and one of the biggest guys in One Piece, gets thrown into the ocean. We've seen, of course, Avala Bizarro gets Galaxy divided. Honestly, Aokiji gets hit with a Conqueror's Haki to the face. I'm telling you guys right now, Garp is strong. Don't get me wrong, Garp is incredibly powerful. In my opinion, Garp is actually same power scaling as Whitebeard we saw in Marineford, and could actually be stronger because Garp is not sick like Whitebeard. And Garp took on a Shiryu the Rain sword attack rather than Whitebeard took on a Squardo. The Shiryu the Rain sword attack is way more devastating than Squardo's. I know. Yes, Whitebeard is more durable as the world's strongest man, but I will tell you guys right now, when it comes to physical power, those battleship bags that he was trading on, and what we saw in God Valley that even predates what we saw against Aokiji in his prime, we know Garp is pretty much what Roger would have been at Marineford. Imagine old Roger. That's how strong Garp is. If you want to imagine how old Roger power level will be, he'd probably be Yonko level, and that's what Garp was. Garp was a Yonko level character that was laid back during Marineford, and he wanted to kill Akainu. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, he, in my opinion, had a better chance of killing Akainu than Whitebeard. We saw Whitebeard to Akainu, but if I'm being honest here, guys, we saw the Aokiji fight, and the way that these young guys have, the way their mind works, if anyone helps out Akainu, even a little bit to what Shiryu the Rain did, anybody, we know that Garp is getting killed by Akainu. And he's not letting him live by Aokiji because he has a soft spot. No, Akainu's killing Garp. That is how devastating his battle mindset is. Now, who would win in that fight? I think they're both Yonko level. I think it's a toss-up. I do think Akainu would do better than Aokiji, but I think it's a toss-up. And Aokiji and Akainu are super close as well. We saw the 10-day battle. Now, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to Marineford is because we have so much material in Marineford, but the thing is, One Piece wasn't developed during Marineford. That's why fans were so happy to see Aokiji in Egghead Island. That's why fans were so happy to see Kizaru during Egghead Island, is because we're finally seeing Marineford characters get developed. Even Marco in Wano is a Marineford war character getting developed, and you saw what he's doing to King and Queen. But yeah, I want to talk about the last thing, and that is Marco. Speaking of the Phoenix, Marco had some clashes with Akainu, and Marco was the strongest Whitebeard pirate after Whitebeard. And he wasn't sick and he wasn't old. He had a mythical zone, even rarer than a Logia. And I'll be honest with you guys, Marco, yeah, he did stop Akainu a little bit for a little bit, even though Akainu was looking stronger and overpowering him in that clash. But Marco did take the attack and wasn't really damaged by it, which was cool. But then we had a bad moment where we see Marco use Armor Haki, Vista use Armor Haki, and it does nothing to Akainu. We know if you use Haki to a Logia character and nothing happens to them, I'll say this right now, it just shows that Akainu's Haki is stronger than Marco's and Vista's. And we already knew this because we saw when Whitebeard didn't attack in Marineford, all the animals use advanced armor Haki. People think the animals are just Logia merchants. No, they actually have insane Haki as well and insane physical power as well. They are the top tier for a reason, just like the Yonko. And then of course we see moments like Jinbei clashing with Akainu, and Jinbei already knows that Akainu's stronger than him. This is a Jinbei that went up against Big Mom. So this is a pretty strong Jinbei, even though Big Mom is way strong. I'm just saying that he has the ability to go against clash with Yonkos, not get one-shotted. Yeah, Akainu was pretty much saying, Jinbei, you know how strong I am. What are you doing? This is insane. And then all the commanders, seeing Crocodile, Marco, and the rest of the commanders, excluding Jozu, all go up against Akainu. Seeing Kurio just take an L. Yeah, that is what you call power. And that's when we knew Akainu was built different. You know, every time I see a character and he's pretty strong, I know he's strong when he's making other strong characters look not that strong. Like we've seen with Big Mom and Queen, of course. Like we've seen with Kaido and Luffy before Onigashima. Yes, you could really tell, okay, this person's pretty strong. Now, let's move away from Marineford. Let's talk about what the Marines and their power is. When you want to talk about Marine and power, you look at Monkey D. Garp. We saw what he did on God Valley. We saw what he did against Aokiji. Monkey D. Garp is a monster. Then, of course, you look at Sengoku. He has a mythical zone Delphood. He didn't really showcase that much in Marineford, even though he was going against Blackbeard after he got the Gurgur no Mi. But we know Sengoku was rivaling with Shiki. We know that he knew Whitebeard's full power. We know that Roger said, if you're going to bring Marines, make sure you bring Garp and Sengoku. And Roger knows how strong Garp is because he fought with Garp on God Valley. And he knows how strong Sengoku is because they had to have an exchange. So that is a big stamp. I think that's the biggest stamp for Sengoku in power. And Sengoku had Conqueror's Haki. We know Garp had Conqueror's Haki coding. We know that Sengoku became Fleet Admiral. I do believe this is a big sign that Akainu will have Conqueror's Haki coding. If you don't have Conqueror's Haki coding, you can't fight. Kaido even mentioned it, like, if you don't have Conqueror's Haki coding, like, that's the top of the top level of fighting power, technique. And Kaido was the only one during the God Valley Imu battle that didn't have Conqueror's Haki coding. We've seen Big Mom use with the Kaku Sovereignty, and we've seen the rest, like Rocks with, of course, his Cursed Abyss. We've seen Whitebeard with the Shattering Void. We've seen Divine Departure with Roger and Galaxy Impact with Garp. Yes, those 5 characters had Conqueror's Haki coding with Dragon. Kaido just did an attack called Dragon. He even have a named attack for his Heat Breath, yet with no Conqueror's Haki coding. So Kaido saying this is a big stamp, and I think Akainu needs to have Conqueror's Haki coding and will have it. Like, there's no way he doesn't have it. Now, after Marineford, I think some of the biggest narrative moments we've seen with Akainu, if it's not actually seeing him fight, but it's big narrative moments, is when Akainu actually is sent out to go against Blackbeard, who has the Gurgur no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi straight after Marineford, and Blackbeard runs away. This is not just Blackbeard running away. This is Blackbeard and his level 6 prisoners running away. That's a pretty strong group, and if you had to bet money, like if you told me who am I betting on, Blackbeard with 2 Delphood and his crew, or Akainu, I was gonna bet on Blackbeard. But the fact that he ran away told me that Blackbeard wasn't fully Yonko level at that time. Yes, we all know he became Yonko during the time skip, Yonko level during the time skip, and many people looked at him as the weakest Yonko when it comes to Big Mom, Kaido, and Shanks. But I want to tell you guys right now, this is probably one of the biggest moments where don't look at Blackbeard not being Yonko level yet, and his crew being there and everything. Just look at how strong Akainu is. The fact that Akainu was on the ship is why they left. If any other name was said, I don't think Blackbeard would have left. But once he found out it was Akainu, that's when they left. Remember when he went up against Aokiji during the time skip? He didn't leave, but he leaves with Akainu. Akainu's power, Blackbeard even knows, is that level. He's that guy. Blackbeard's on Marineford. He's seen Akainu. He is the pinnacle of monster for the Marines. Speaking of Aokiji, I think Aokiji is getting a lot of shine lately. One-shotting Cracker, a top young commander that gave Luffy trouble a couple arcs ago. And then, of course, we also got to talk about Aokiji doing Garp bad, even though he had the help of Shitty the Rain and the rest of the Blackbeard Titanic captains. That's a pretty big deal. But Aokiji, we learned a little bit of his history, how he trained, the battleship bags. Aokiji's physical strength with no Delphoid, no Haki was highlighted in this training. And we know his Haki clash with Garp was pretty insane as well, with an overpowered Delphoid that can one-shot Blackbeard top commanders. That was going up against Akainu, and they fought for 10 days and changed the environment of Punk Hazard. The Punk Hazard arc is pretty much showing Yeah, Aokiji and Akainu are Yonko level. And I believe it. I believe they're Yonko level, and I believe Aokiji lost his leg in that battle. Yes, Akainu has scars, but Aokiji lost his leg. Definitely affected him and made him weaker, in my opinion. You lose a limb, you get weaker. Like Shanks with 2 arms or Shanks with 1 arm. You think Shanks is now weaker after losing an arm? That's just how the One Piece verse works. And I truly believe that Aokiji going up against 10 days of Akainu is just a Akainu upscale. Again, another moment of Akainu looking so strong. Like even a Yonko level character in Aokiji, in my opinion, doesn't do much to Akainu in a sense where, like, yes, he kind of wins the fight, but he doesn't get no limbs taken. Like, you gotta understand, that was an insane battle, and it made me really look at Akainu as the guy. Now, quickly, I want to talk about some 2 moments after the time skip that made Akainu look better as well. Fujitora versus Sabo. Fujitora is a new admiral. He's incredibly powerful. We know he has insane armor haki. We know he has insane observation haki because he's blind, and we know he has a Hax Delph in that gravity Delph that could pull down meteors, and he's a pretty impressive swordsman. We saw that when he went up against Zoro. This Fujitora went up against Sabo, the Marineford no Mi user, and it was pretty even. It was pretty even, honestly. Yeah, a couple moments looked like he had pressure on Sabo, but didn't look that bad. Imagine Akainu versus Sabo in Dressrosa. It's not going that way, guys. That an admiral makes Akainu look better, and Fujitora is one of the top tiers in the series. Another admiral I want to talk about is Green Bull. Green Bull versus Shanks. They never fought, but Green Bull got the Wi-Fi Conqueror's Haki Shooketh. Yes, Shooketh of Shanks' power. That's how strong Akainu is, because Akainu on Wano, the exact same scenario, Shanks is not, Conqueror's Haki is not doing that to Akainu. Shanks has to go up and use his sword to stop Akainu like he did in Marineford. Again, another Akainu upscale. These new admirals that are incredibly powerful, that are top tier. We saw Green Bull take out Weevil. We saw him make fun of the Young Commanders and King Queen, even though they were just straight off a battle. Like, that was kind of unfair. Still, Green Bull looks at his admiral status as an insane level. And he even said, he wanted to take down Luffy just to impress Akainu. He's not even trying to take down Luffy to impress himself and get stronger. He just wants to impress Akainu. That's how high he views Akainu's power. Yeah, that is a big upscale. And lastly, if you want to talk about Akainu, you got to talk about his last interactions. That's with Kuma. Kuma is running chaos in the Holy Land, and Akainu comes there, and he's not even serious. Akainu's not even serious. He's more questioning how is Kuma doing this, as he not even trying goes at Kuma. That to me really showed that Akainu is a Yonko level character at the high tier, not the low tier, because a Yonko level character at the high tier that's not trying is still putting that much damage on Kuma. I know Kuma is also nerfed as well, but still, that's a big deal. And I think this is Oda saying, yes, Akainu is finally going to go on the move. And the final saga, after this Elbaf flashback, it's time to see Akainu in the Holy Land while it's being burnt down fight a real top tier. So I think the top tiers that are going to make Akainu look good, I think Sabo is one of them. Sabo has to avenge Ace, the Marineford no Mi. He even told the Blackbeard Pirates his beef is not with them. If your beef is not with Blackbeard who kidnapped Ace, your beef has to be with Akainu who killed Ace. And I think that it's a Delph Fruit clash too as well. The Marineford no Mi and the Magma Fruit, where Akainu overpowered Ace with his Delph Fruit. Sabo has to get back with the Marineford no Mi. That's why he got the Delph Fruit. Awaken it, Blue Flames versus Akainu's Magma. And this is going to be an insane battle. I think this is also going to be a cool battle to see how strong Akainu is, because we know Sabo is relatively close to Admiral level. We know he has insane advanced armor haki. We know he's an insane fighter without a Delph Fruit, and then he got a Marineford no Mi. He definitely is one of these stronger characters in the series. I don't think he's officially Admiral level, but I do think he's close to Fujitora and Green Bull, if not equal. I'll say equal to them, but still, like, low tier Admiral level is not enough for Akainu yet. And then there's Dragon. I think Monkey D. Dragon, we haven't really seen his power like that. We've seen him in God Valley when he was like Kobe level Marine. We've seen him throughout the story, and he doesn't like fighting. But I'll be honest with you guys, Sabo, Kuma, and Ivankov are some of these stronger characters in the series of One Piece, and they follow Dragon. And when Luffy used Conqueror's Haki, Ivankov was like, of course, Dragon is his father. When the Marineford moment happened and Ivankov realized that Luffy and Ace were brothers, and that the Marines were trying to beef with Whitebeard and Dragon, he couldn't believe it. Ivankov couldn't believe they're trying to fight Dragon. And Ivankov knows Dragon's power amongst everyone because he was the original revolutionary. So yeah, I do think Dragon is Pirate King level. I think he's on that level of like monstrous power. So Akainu versus him is gonna be insane, and it's a hype tool. Honestly, it's a hype tool for Akainu, but it's also a hype tool for Dragon. That's like their peak of power, guys. Like, Luffy isn't in his peak yet. I know he said that in Wano, but Dragon and Akainu are. Speaking of Luffy, though, I think the fact that Luffy versus Akainu is supposed to happen is a big deal because we know that Luffy only has one permanent scar that was given by someone else, and that was Akainu. The scar on his face was by himself, guys. So yeah, that scar on his chest, he felt it when he learned about Akainu becoming Fleet Admiral. Akainu scarred the future Pirate King, which Oda wouldn't do that randomly. It means Oda really thinks Akainu should be fighting the guys of Pirate King level. I think Akainu and Kobe they're going to be the guys in the Marines that are going to be able to fight Pirate King level characters in the end of the story. And after Kizaru versus Luffy, I think we're pretty much getting close to that get back of the three admirals versus Luffy moment in Marineford, where Luffy wasn't ready to fight the three admirals. But now that he has Kankasaki coding, now that he has a 2 levels advanced armor haki, now that he has insane observation haki where he can see into the future, I'm pretty much expecting to see some insane moments that are going to be used by Luffy against Akainu. You saw what he did against Blazing Bagua, and Akainu is pretty much a walking Blazing Bagua, so it's going to be insane seeing Luffy go up against a high Yonko level character, knowing that Luffy is pretty much low Yonko level right now because of his limits. I think Luffy right now is around the level of Big Mom, and Kaido maybe. I think Kaido's still stronger than Luffy, honestly, and Big Mom might even be stronger because she can outlast Gear 5. But still, I do believe Luffy, when he masters his limits to Gear 5, is going to be high Yonko level, Shanks, Blackbeard, and I think that that's when he's going to be ready to fight a guy like Akainu. We saw against Kizaru. Yes, he was bodying Kizaru, but he's not ready to fight Akainu through that fight because Kizaru didn't get a hit on Luffy in Gear 5. Luffy knows Akainu will get a hit on you. He's not Kizaru. Kizaru is just speed. Akainu is offensive monster. And that's why I made this video, guys. I think Akainu is one of the strongest characters in the series, and people are forgetting. People are forgetting because he hasn't done nothing post time skip.